Landmark Society of Western New York. And I'm here tonight to share with you about this exciting historic resource survey project that we have kicked off here in the village of Webster, and kind of talk to you about why we're doing this survey, what the purpose is, and what the benefits to your community can be. So I'll try to run through this pretty quickly, but I do want to give you some good information tonight. So to quickly share, if you're not familiar with our organization, the Landmark Society, we are a nonprofit preservation advocacy organization, and we were founded in 1937, which makes us one of the oldest and longest active running preservation organizations in the country. We're based in Rochester, but serve a 9-county region across the Genesee Valley and Finger Lakes regions. And so one of those is obviously Monroe County that we serve and work in. And although we have a small professional staff, our work is broad and multifaceted. We own and operate 3 historic properties. We offer a wide range of events and educational programs, including our very popular Inside Downtown and House and Garden tours that take place in the spring and summer. And at the core of our mission, or at the core of our work is our mission, which is to protect the unique architectural heritage of our region and to promote preservation and planning practices that foster healthy, livable, and sustainable communities. And we advance this through doing a lot of our programming that I mentioned, but also through consulting services that I oversee, such as projects like the Village of Webster Historic Resource Survey that we're here to learn about tonight. I also manage our contractor referral program, so people who own historic properties are looking for contractors that are knowledgeable with historic buildings and materials, and sometimes traditional trades. We can help connect property owners with those tradespeople, which is a great way to help protect your historic resource. Go to the next one. Just quickly running through the historic preservation organizations and agencies that are involved in a project like we're working on right now. We work at both the local, state, and national level in preservation, and then we have our government and then our nonprofit sides. With the Village of Webster Historic Resource Survey, we're mostly working at a local level right now, with the Village of Webster being the ones who contracted the Landmark Society. We are your consultant undertaking the work. This project was partially funded by the Preservation League of New York State. You see them under the state nonprofit. They're our statewide historic preservation advocacy organization, and they administer the Preserve New York grant, which is something that the village got to help with this project. Ultimately, this survey report will be submitted to both the village and also the New York State Historic Preservation Office. We call them SHPO, S-H-P-O for short, so if you hear me using that tonight, that's what I'm referring to. SHPO ultimately is the one that will review the work and the recommendations that come out of this survey and decide whether or not they agree with our recommendations as far as potential historic districts, historic properties, and so that's sort of everybody who's involved here. Later on, you'll be hearing about a next step process that could come after the survey, and that would then involve the National Park Service that you see up there at the national level. Go ahead. So just to quickly run through the project background and where we're at right now. Obviously the first bullet that you see here is pretty obvious. The Village of Webster received the Preserve New York grant through the Preservation League of New York State to assist with the cost of the survey of this project, and then contracted with us at the Landmark Society to undertake this work. And we've begun the initial survey work, and and you'll hear a little bit more about this later about what we've done so far, but we've begun very initial survey work, and then throughout the winter and very early spring is when I do most of the research and writing of the historic context portion of the report, which will include the historic development, and history of the village, so kind of laying out that overall where the village came from, why it's significant. In the early spring, you will start to see us out walking the streets of the village, where we will be photographing every property in our survey area that we are further documenting, so it's probably going to be a few hundred properties. We photograph each property because later on we will be creating inventory forms which become part of this survey report. So to run through quickly, what is a historic resource survey? This is essentially an inventory of a community's historic resources. And historic resources can include buildings, sites, structures, landscapes, and objects that are generally 50 years or older. Just to kind of put in a little, where does that 50 years or older come from? That is a standard by the National Park Service. So basically anything that's 50 years or older can be considered historic for purposes of listing in the National Register of Historic Places. So that's kind of a standard number that we go by. The purpose of the survey is to identify individual properties and areas that appear to meet the criteria for listing in the National Register of Historic Places, and to create a comprehensive record of the historically significant resources within the Village of Webster. The completed survey report becomes an important planning tool for the village. It can help inform decision-making related to development, land use, and long-term planning in identifying which resources are historically significant and should be considered early in planning processes. The survey can also support heritage tourism and strengthen community pride by increasing public awareness and appreciation for the village's historic building stock. For example, understanding where historic resources are located can help the village board make more informed decisions about development proposals. And it can also increase awareness of these resources and encourage businesses and property owners to reinvest in and reuse vacant or underutilized historic buildings, and rather than pursuing new construction, which isn't necessarily a bad thing either, but that supports both preservation and sustainable growth. This slide here, you'll see on the right-hand side is the survey area. So the Village of Webster Historic Resource Survey will be conducted within the municipal boundaries of the village. And we began this project back in September with a stakeholder kickoff meeting, which included representatives from the village, as well as the Historical Society. This meeting ensured that all involved were on the same page about the project, this project's scope of work, and what we're hoping to get out of this survey process. Since then, I've begun some of the initial survey work, including a windshield survey. This includes driving all the streets in the village and marking maps, and areas that will be further surveyed as part of the project. So areas that appear to be historic and retain sufficient integrity and appear to have some level of historic significance will be further documented as part of this survey. Areas or properties that are new construction, meaning they're more recent than 1976, and yes, we're skipping to make 50 years next year since this will be an ongoing project. Those will not be documented as they wouldn't be considered historic for the purposes of this project. Throughout the winter, I'll be conducting research and writing about the history and the development of the village, along with other areas of significance that can be found throughout our research process, such as impacts of transportation, roadways, industries, or commerce. This will result in a historic context portion of the survey report as an overview of the village's history. In the spring, as I mentioned, you'll see our survey team out walking the streets to photograph all of the properties. This allows us to create individual inventory forms on each surveyed property, which will include its approximate construction date, whether there are any historic outbuildings, like a garage or a carriage house, whether it would be considered contributing or non-contributing to a potential proposed historic district, and we'll go over what that is a little bit more in detail. A brief physical description and a brief statement of significance, and this would include the architectural style of every building. All of the photographs will be taken from the public right away. We don't enter any private property, at least not on purpose, to get photos. And then in the late spring, early summer, the draft report will be submitted to both the village and the New York SHPO for review. Should they have any edits or comments or things that need to be here that they would like added, then we would make those edits at that time and then submit what we would call a final survey report. If there aren't any edits to be made, then that initial submission would become the final report at that time. And once that's been submitted and accepted, we'll then work with the village to schedule another final public meeting where we'll discuss the results of the survey and what that means for the village and its residents and other property owners. At that point, the village or another organization could choose to apply for funding or fund on their own the National Register nomination for any eligible district. And I'll briefly touch now on the National Register of Historic Places and what the districts are. Okay, the National Register, and this would be phase 2. This would come after the survey results and the end of the survey, which is the project we're working on now. The next step after that you'd move into would ideally be a National Register designation. So the National Register was established by the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966. That's when we really realized that our built environment is important and we should try to preserve it. This is an official list of historic buildings, sites, structures, and objects that are recognized as significant in American history. It can be for American history, architecture, archaeology, engineering, or culture. Any of those can be a reason to list something in the National Register. These resources can be listed either individually or as contributing to a historic district, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a moment. And one of the biggest things that I would like you to take away from what I talk about tonight and what that next process would be is that listing in the National Register, contrary to popular belief, is actually an honorary designation. It comes with no restrictions for private property owners unless there's state or federal funding involved in a project. So if you're a homeowner within a potential National Register eligible district and the village were to move forward with that as a next phase project, this would not stop you from doing whatever you want to do to your property, with the caveat that you still have to follow local building and permits and zoning regulations, obviously. But this is an honorary designation. The state and the federal government do not come in and tell you what you can and can't do with your property unless you're using funding from them, which is generally not going to happen with a homeowner. Okay, next. So what is a historic district? These are groupings of properties such as residential neighborhoods, commercial downtowns, and industrial complexes. Here you guys have a little bit of all of that in the village that we'll be taking a look at. The district boundaries are generally determined by several factors, such as the history and development of the area, as well as historic integrity of the buildings that are within a boundary of a proposed district. So it has to create a cohesive boundary and grouping of buildings. And then again, as I mentioned before, properties within a district are labeled either as contributing or non-contributing to the district. Examples of contributing resources are those that are at least 50 years old, retain exterior integrity that we're looking at when it comes to a district. We don't look at the interior. And even if some of the materials have changed, but it contributes to the overall cohesiveness of a streetscape and the setting and the development history of the surrounding properties, that could be a contributing property. Resources that would be considered non-contributing would be those that are more recently constructed, so post-1976, or that they've been significantly altered on their exterior, so much so that it really doesn't resemble its historic appearance in any way. There are currently 5 properties within the village that are listed individually in the National Register, so I think that's important to point out. They are the Jane and Mason Bank Building at 11 East Main, where I think that's where Nest Things is now. Webster Grange, number 436, which is also known as Harmony House. The William C. Jane House on East Main Street. The George Mason House at 39 Dunning Avenue, and then the Cobblestone Webster Baptist Church on South Avenue. So you do have some properties here that are already designated. In addition, the Xerox Webster Complex, which falls within the village boundary, has been flagged as likely eligible prior to the survey starting. This is something in the state's Cultural Resource Information System. It's been flagged as likely eligible with additional research and documentation necessary for SHPO to make that final determination. And while the survey does not delve deep into individual property history itself, it does help flesh out some of the uncertainties that help the state then make these determinations on districts and individual properties. We do anticipate recommending at least one historic district in the village. That was kind of the start of this project to begin with. It's pretty clear there's a historic district here in the village of Webster, particularly much of the residential streets south of Main and east of South Avenue. But this survey will help us kind of determine what are those actual boundaries and what is their historic significance, what is the history of the village that ties it all together and rises to that level of National Register designation. It'll also help us determine whether there's portions of the commercial core along Main Street and whether or not they contribute to the cohesive district per the National Park Service standards. So you may be wondering why bother with the survey or the pursuit of a National Register nomination later on. The survey does act as the first step towards designation, which comes with several benefits. Listing in the National Register offers many of those same benefits, such as promoting heritage tourism and economic development, raising awareness and community pride in the past, and offering a tool for the village to reference when making planning and development decisions. However, first and foremost, if there's anything, again, that you take away from this talk tonight, it's that the National Register listing is an honorary designation. It doesn't come with any restrictions to private property owners. I mentioned that a second time because it's very important for people to understand. Neither the state or federal government will step in and tell you what you can and can't do with your property just because it's listed. Listing can also open other funding opportunities through grant and loan programs. These are typically geared towards nonprofit organizations and municipalities rather than private property owners. However, sometimes, depending on that grant source, they can trickle down from a municipality getting it to individual property owners. So something like this does open up opportunities. In addition, there is, as a side note, because you already have a church that's listed and potentially could have more, there's also what is called the Sacred Sites Grant through the New York Landmarks Conservancy. That's a nonprofit out of New York City, but they run a grant program specifically for historic houses of worship to get money for repairing and preserving their buildings. The most enticing benefit to listing in the National Register is the opportunity to utilize the state and federal historic tax credit programs, which offer tax credits for repair, maintenance, rehabilitation, and upgrades to your property. So there are financial opportunities for most property owners who have properties designated in the National Register. Okay. There are 3 historic tax credit programs I'll go over quickly because this is truly the biggest carrot to why have a survey done. It's because we're trying to find a National Register nomination, which I'm very confident you have here. So there are 3 historic tax credit programs to be aware of that property owners would become eligible for should this move pass the survey into the National Register. The first is the New York State Historic Homeownership Tax Credit, which would probably benefit the majority of property owners in the district that we're likely going to be proposing from this project. This is administered by the State Historic Preservation Office. It has to be an owner-occupied residence, so it can be either your main residence or a secondary residence, but you have to live there at least a portion of the year. It does have to be in a qualifying census tract. I check this almost daily because census isn't up to me or the State Historic Preservation Office. Right now, the Village of Webster is in a qualifying census tract, so that means you're eligible for the tax credit once listed. And you have to spend at least $5,000 in total qualified rehabilitation expenses, which most people who own a home probably know that $5,000 is pretty easy to spend when you're doing maintenance and upgrades and repairs. This is a state income tax credit, so not a grant program, but a tax credit on your state income taxes that's equal to 20% of your qualified rehabilitation expenses. So 20% of what you spend to repair, upgrade your home is you get a 20% tax credit back on that from the state. So a really great program, a great incentive for people to maintain their homes and be able to do repair work that maybe they couldn't have before.
And that can be interior things as well, right?
Yes, so it can be exterior or interior work, although that's a great point because there does have to be, of that $5,000 or any total that you spend, 5% of your total spent does have to be for exterior work. So, sometimes we help homeowners who are coming in and they're repairing their wood floors and maybe doing some plaster work, but they really didn't have anything on the exterior of their home. So we'll say, does your porch need a new coat of paint? You'd be surprised how quickly a small area of painting outside can get you to that 5%. So yes, thank you for that. The other program that would probably be of interest to some other property owners here is the Commercial Historic Tax Credit Program. This is administered by the National Park Service, but it runs through the New York State SHPO office. It is a state income tax credit that's equal to 30% of your QREs, and that is for projects that are $2.5 million or less. So most of those are going to be your Main Street type buildings. And it's a 20% tax credit if your project is more than 2.5 million. Then there's a federal income tax credit that's equal to 20%. So if you have a commercial building that is listed in the National Register, you could potentially get up to a 50% tax credit between the state and the federal credit. And this is available to properties that will be used for businesses or income producing purposes. And it must also meet a substantial rehabilitation test. This, in a very brief nutshell, means that you take the overall value of the property and the land it's on, or what you purchased it for, minus depreciation, minus the value of the land, and you have to spend more than that number to be able to use this program. So it depends building by building and project by project whether you meet that, but still a great program. And the way that this commercial program works is that the state program piggybacks off the federal program. So if you are approved for the federal tax credit, you are automatically approved for the state tax credit in whichever one of those two tax credit brackets that you fall under depending on the cost of your project.
And it can be used more than once too, right?
Yes, so particularly with the homeowner tax credit, you can use that over and over again. So once you close out a project and claim the tax credit, you can open up a new one. There's no limit to how many times you can apply to use that program. Commercial technically works the same way, but having to meet that substantial rehabilitation requirement could preclude a property owner from going back to it again if they do enough work the first time around.
Thank you.
Next slide. All right, and the final one, and also our final thing I'm talking about, is the New York State Historic Barn Tax Credit. Now, I don't know if there's a whole lot of property owners in the village that this might apply to, but there could be a few, so I wanted to mention it. This is administered by the New York SHPO again. This program is different from the other two that we just talked about in that the barn does not have to be listed in the National Register to be eligible. It doesn't have to have any historic designation. All that it has to do is that you have to be a New York State taxpayer. The barn has to have been built prior to 1946 and originally used for an agricultural related purpose. Now I know the village, you're probably thinking we don't have agricultural land here in barn complexes, but what you may have are homeowners who have what we would call a carriage house instead of a garage. And those are considered barns or agriculturally related because once upon a time a horse pulled the carriage into it. So you may have property owners here in the village who have a carriage house rather than a garage, and they would be able to use this program, which is great because the one thing I didn't mention about the homeowner program is that tax credit is only available for your main house. If you have a detached garage, unfortunately, and I don't love this, you can't use the tax credit for work you do to that garage. If your garage is attached to your house, physically attached to your house, you can use the tax credit. But if it's detached and it's technically a carriage house, then you're in luck. You could use this New York State Historic Barn Tax Credit for work on that. And that is a 25% tax credit for qualified expenses. The only thing that it can't do is the barn or carriage house can't have been used for a residence 1 year prior to applying for this tax credit, and it can't be, the project that you are doing with the tax credit can't be to turn it into a residence. So it just can't have a residential purpose. Other than that, people have used it to create event venues and all sorts of things, or just to repair their carriage house or their barns. It's a great program. So there are multiple financial incentives for being listed in the National Register, and then also this barn tax credit, whether you are or not listed. So last one. I know this is a lot of information, but I hope that this leaves you all with a better understanding of the project we're currently working on, what we're doing, kind of the timeline of when this should be completed. At this point, the draft survey should be submitted to both the village and the state in kind of late spring, early summer next year, with the final survey report being submitted by mid-end of summer, should there be any edits requested. So that's kind of the timeline we're on, the project we're working on, and a little information about why we're doing the survey to eventually lead potentially to a National Register district. Any questions?
Is it tax credit retroactive?
So the homeowner tax credit is not, unfortunately. The way that one works, I know, and people always get listed right after they've done a big project too. The homeowner credit, you do have to apply and have your work approved by the State Preservation Office first. Generally, the only time that they would give you approval to start before you have a full application is if you have, like, your boiler goes in the middle of winter. As long as you call them and they know it's happening and you get your application in that week, they usually will. It's not really retroactive approving, but in a way, I guess that is. But you still have to be listed in the National Register to submit that application. The barn tax credit, however, I do believe that they can look back to work that was done, I believe it was up to 5 years prior to your application, but you have to be able to submit before and after photographs with that so they can see the work that was done.
Wait, real quick. You mentioned church. Does it have to be currently used as a church, or do past uses of it as a church?
So, so for the Sacred Sites Grant for the New York Landmarks Conservancy, it does have to be actively used for a congregation.
Okay.
And specifically, it has to be used for like services, for religious services.
All right, thanks.
Questions? If not, you're welcome to reach out to me anytime. Yes.
I have a couple. You said you're constantly checking to see what is a qualifying census tract. What determines that qualification, and is that something that can change? If it is a qualified census tract, can that be removed for any reason?
So the qualifying census tract is done when they do the census surveys. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure off the top of my head what agency does that with the state. And basically what it has to do with is what the median income is. And I am not sure off the top of my head how that's determined for tax credits, what that cutoff is. But that it can change every time the census is done.
Sure.
But basically what happens is if that changes, so let's say we get this survey done and the village decides to move forward with a National Register nomination, which is about another year-long process. And during that year, all of a sudden the census is redone and for some reason the village is no longer an eligible census tract. You're given a grace period, so it's generally like right now I know there's some areas of downtown Rochester that are in a grace period that would take them until April of 2027 to be eligible for the program. So that's kind of how that would work. So it's not like you would just all of a sudden, oh, we're in the middle of this project and all of a sudden, nope, you're not eligible anymore. So there's generally a grace period, as well as the fact that a lot of times when the census is redone, it brings you back into qualification anyways.
And I have a couple more questions. How long has the barn program been in existence?
So that's a good question. The current program was brought back, I think, about 5 years ago. The state had one previously and got rid of it, and then were convinced to bring it back. So I think the current program has been running for about 5 years. But it's not well known, so we're trying to spread the word.
And there are a lot of properties in the village with carriage houses like that.
Yeah, so this would be great for them to know about.
It would be, and those are often very expensive and sometimes cost prohibitive to actually restore and keep up.
And that information will also be included in the survey report. There will be information on all of these tax credit programs. So I can't say that every resident in the village will read the whole survey report, but that'll be there too. So hopefully, as more people hear about this, spread the word to your neighbors, and get more people to start using it.
Okay, and just one more question. This was actually done in 1992. I suspect that you perhaps were just a twinkle in your parents' eye, or maybe in preschool at that time. But, and obviously there are buildings that have become 50 years old since then. But will the initial data from that survey in 92 be used to perhaps lessen the work? Or will it be taken into consideration as you move this new project forward?
So yeah, I do have a copy of that 1992 survey. I think what happened with that survey is that was never submitted to the state. I think it was just used for kind of local knowledge purposes. So that never became a survey that went to the state to determine National Register eligibility. So this survey here is pretty much updating, a complete update and overhaul to that 1992 survey, which we are using to kind of see if there's some differences to pull from historic context. But overall, this will be a completely updated survey that will then get submitted to the state. And the nice thing about that is then it's a record they hold. So if something is determined eligible, it goes into their database system so everyone's aware of that. So yes, to answer your question, we are using that survey, but doing a major update to it.
So who's responsible for submitting that to the state? Is that something that you will report to the village board and then they have to take a resolution to approve that being submitted? Or how did it get dropped in 92?
So I'm not sure about 1992. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the 1992 survey was more potentially led with the Historical Society, I think, and volunteers who did that. So I don't know that it was ever intended to be submitted to the state necessarily. At the end of this survey project, part of our contract is to submit it. So when I send it to the village, I will also be submitting it to the state through their database system for review.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So since the 92 survey, there have been a ton of homes in the village that are eligible for historic.
Yes, I have a feeling that from the properties documented in the 1992 survey, we're probably gonna have a lot more now.
Chance Tract,
So, yeah.
India Village, I don't know.
Yeah, so it'll be really interesting to see the full results of this survey compared to what it was in 1992.
Yeah.
Cheryl, did you have any other questions for Megan?
I know that you already heard about this in our stakeholder meeting too, so.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you very much for having me. Please feel free to reach out anytime.
Thank you, Megan.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Ours was built in 1904. Yeah. Oh, fine. You probably use the leftover wood from your place. Natural,
Good thing about it, like 4 years ago, we could be 75. So we're ready for church.
Good to see you.
I don't have a carriage.
I used to live in a carriage.
Oh, that's sweet.
I saw
I
it.
wish I did,
It was
that's,
kind of cold though, because it was a garage.
yeah.
My
I mean,
apartment.
that's part of it, carriage house part of it.
Yeah.
And they treated it with the same criteria as the barn, that's good. It's pretty cool.
Well,
This would be a good
particular
one.
time.
He was here for the 92 survey. Dude.
all right, thank you very much for that presentation, and at this time, I would like to move into our scheduled agenda. And the first thing we need to do is to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you all stand please with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will you be seated?
Please be seated.
Thank you, Carl.
First item tonight, our scheduled agenda, that's our second and third item, is public comment, as we start every board meeting with. So if anybody would like to address the board, come to the podium, state your name, and what you would like to address the board regarding.
Hello, Peter Elder, 59 Dunning Avenue. Want to wish you all a good evening. I am just here to, on behalf of the Historic Preservation Commission, just want to make sure you know that we are fully behind this survey and also behind the idea of getting looking at the historic district for the village. Not only do we think the tax credits are an exciting opportunity for village residents, because you all know if you pass by my house, we just put on a $42,000 porch not too long ago, and it would have been wonderful to get some tax credits that we didn't get, but there it is. So I will, but I would say that it provides an opportunity. We all know the old homes are kind of tough. I've been in a lot of them, been in Carl's, myself, Daryl's, everybody's, we all have floors that are sloping in odd directions and things that need fixed, and so this is a good opportunity to have that happen. Also, it's kind of exciting to have the expansion of it into the Shands Track down Judson Street, Champion, London, Maryvale, Meadow. All those streets become eligible as well. Those homes are aging a little and they need repair too. So I think if you look at the totality of it, it provides a great opportunity. It also provides a great, strangely enough, tourism opportunity, because we talked about that in historic preservation too, because now we can advertise it that we have an historic district. To give you an example, I'm the co-chair of the governing board of the Webster Baptist Church, and we actually get requests from people looking at cobblestone buildings to come there because it is listed on the registry. So it's an opportunity to show off some of these great buildings and assets the village has. So all the way around, it seems like a great thing. And in 2025, it doesn't infringe on property owners' rights, but yet it gives us all these other benefits. So I think looking into the future, it makes a lot of sense. I do want to thank Josh Gerizzo, who headed this up from Historic Preservation. He's done an excellent job. We're going to lose him in a few months, but he's done a great job at bringing this to the forefront and pushing it up so we can get this done. We also are next year looking at applying to a Pomeroy grant through Historic Preservation. That shouldn't cost $1 from the village, so don't breathe easy. But it will allow us to get some additional road markers. Might involve Jake helping us put some of them in, but it is that would also allow us to expand some of the road markers we have right now that you see out there. So, for instance, we're going to look at like the Methodist Church on the corner of Curtis and East Main, the yellow one, because it has no sign on it, which is kind of a shame because it is a very historic structure, not only for its architecture, its color, but also its history, which is amazing. So we're looking at structures like that to honor and expand the road presence we have right now. And lastly, I will let you know that perennially we go back and re-honor some properties in historic preservation. We do a site of the month, and this month it was the Webster Baptist Church right next door. So you should see that in the Herald next week. And we're looking to honor, believe it or not, Golden Boys the next one. So I already got their permission. That site's really interesting, has some interesting history too, so look out for that coming up as well. So thank you all for your support of historic preservation. We're going to keep working to make sure people know what we do here in the village. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think this will be a great opportunity for a number of homeowners, take advantage of the opportunity to do some things they wouldn't think of doing to their place, both inside and outside. I know that some of the flooring inside has been chewed up. I mean, the little boards that you don't find anymore, and the way in which they've been laid down, All right, well,
Okay.
move now to village board business. Our first is a resolution to approve the minutes from the 25th of November, and I would like to table that until next meeting, as they are not in our possession at the present time. So I would like to table those.
All right.
make a motion to table these minutes until our first meeting in January, which I believe will be January 8th.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Morenzi?
Aye.
Mayor Barnes?
What?
I said Mayor Barnes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
motion passes. Thank you.
all right, next item is the approval of claims and warrants. I really don't have any objection to what is in there. So I will ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that as well. I'll second.
Okay, sorry. Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Trustee Morenzi?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Mayor Myers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next, we have a discussion regarding Martin Builders, the invoice for the pole barn. And I will, at this particular time, ask Jake to give an explanation regarding that. I believe that there's something going on that requires us to increase the amount that we voted on, the allotment of it, but it is still within what we said for total. So Jake, can you give us a little bit more information on this estimate?
Yes, yeah, you're exactly right. It is an increase, but it's still underneath, or under what we had budgeted for. This is to add, this was a change order. The barn's not built yet, so this isn't technically really an invoice, it's an estimate. But it's to sheet the ceiling inside, and I think we initially started looking at that because there was discussions about where we're gonna have to have other ties, and Chris followed up with the architect. I think we don't have to have those ties in there now, but it'll certainly help when we're lighting. We're gonna plan on having very minimal lighting in there, just some high bay LEDs. So the guys are in there hooking up clouds and things like that. It'll help reflect the light down a little better. It's got a, you know, like a sheeted ceiling, like a white ceiling. And then it's adding aprons. We had concrete floors, but this will be expanding those, the aprons, just outside of the building to help protect that transition a little better. And then the bollards as well. Adding the bollards in there to protect the building itself. Very nice, because I would be very sad if that got hit, considering how long we've been looking at getting that built.
How high are the doors going to be?
What's that?
How high will the doors be?
14 foot.
14?
Yeah. There's two 12 by 14s and one 16 by 14 on one end, and two, I don't remember, I don't have the plans in front of me. I think it was two 12 by 16, or 16, there's 12 by 14s, excuse me, and a 16 by 14 on one end, and I believe it's two 12, or 16 by 14s on the other end. And some,
So they would be easily navigated through as long as you don't have the back end of a truck.
right, yeah, I mean, the width, when you pull in there with a wing on, you're yourself a little on, but yes. That would be my
That was a
expectation.
good learning experience, watching the town and their problems that they have with their new structure.
Oh, I didn't even remember
Yes,
that.
they had somebody go in with their backhand up and,
Oh,
yes, they just had it redone.
A few years ago, we
Be
did,
mindful of it, I'm sure.
yeah, we did lose a few telephone wires on Donovan Street from falling snow one time in the box. According to that driver, it miraculously just went up all by itself. And,
It happens.
yeah.
It happens. Well,
So
Actually, what you would, the action by the board would be a resolution to approve the change order in the amount of $22,250 and authorize the superintendent of public works to sign the estimate.
I think we could move from a discussion at this particular time to that.
Assuming you had enough discussion.
I think so, and I think the most important thing to me was that you stay under the original estimated cost of the whole thing, which we are, and still significantly by a lot.
Yes.
Well, I would propose that what has been spoken by our esteemed lawyer, and anybody would like to,
I'll make that motion.
with that motion,
The superintendent
To approve the change order and authorize
approve the change.
Jake, the superintendent of public works, to sign the estimate that you have in front of you. See down the bottom, it says accepted by and accepted date.
I'll second.
Trustee Buckheim?
Aye.
Trustee Morenzi?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
So accepted date 12/16/25. Next, we have a resolution to authorize the mayor to sign development agreement between the village, the town of Webster, and WEDA concerning the $9.8 million Fast New York grant. That is in your possession as well. If you've had a chance to look that over.
So this was negotiated between the village and the town. Well, the most important part of it is paragraph 4, which is the split of the engineering costs. 64% by the town and 36% by the village.
And those costs will be, I believe, refundable. Those are some of those upfront costs or things that we have to do prior.
I don't remember if those are actually refundable under the grant or not. Some of the upfront stuff was not.
The administrative work is not, but the design work is.
Yeah.
And it's related to the RFPs that Leanne sent out last week to various engineering firms.
So our part of this, as you can see, in this, it's been provided in the past, but improving the Orchard Street, Panama Road, and Mitchell Mead. Those are drives that are in the village that Xerox is looking to dedicate to the town, the dedication of them. But they need to be obviously redone, prior to that. And also a little paragraph. B, I guess. No, that's trail. It would also be along a trail along from Toyota Drive to New York Route 104. All those things in A would be involved in terms of this grant proportion of 3.8 million or so. Well, are all aware, I believe, that the grant matching part of this that had to be provided was done so by the town in terms of the total funding that's being provided, the $7 million. work that was done. So, on their sanitary sewer system.
I'll make a motion, authorize the mayor to sign the development agreement.
Oh, wait. What about paragraph 3, hits me right in the face. On page 2. Why is it so high?
Paragraph 3.
Yeah,
With the 500,000?
yeah.
Well,
$1 million bucks for a survey?
It's reimbursable under the grant,
Yeah,
but until it's done, you don't get reimbursed, you know. They don't give you the money up front, and then you do it. You gotta get the planning done, and then the state will reimburse you.
Okay.
And this actually,
and that's something.
it was, Empire State Development suggested that the grant be upped by the $500,000 to do this engineering or electrical power engineering master plan.
Okay.
This was not an idea by either the village or the town,
Okay.
because neither the village nor the town are gonna pay anything with respect to upgrades to Xerox's electrical power needs.
That is correct.
Is there a second? I authorize that, I made a motion, anybody second?
I'll say.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Trustee Morenzi?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
So Heather, after the mayor signs it, send the original to the town clerk, because the town board is considering the same resolution this Thursday.
Okay.
So if they could have the original, so the supervisor can sign that. And then they're gonna forward it on to the bid.
Okay. Do I do just one copy? Or should we
We're
do
gonna have the
three?
bid to weed it. What?
3 copies? Did you want?
It doesn't matter, it just needs one original. You don't need a
Okay.
bunch of duplicate originals floating around.
Okay.
You know, just keep a copy of, after Daryl signs it for yourself, and ultimately Leanne will get you
Okay.
a copy of the signed agreement.
Got it.
Okay, next we have item 5, which is a resolution to authorize the mayor to sign an MOU between the Village of Webster and the union to close the office and DPW on December 26, 2025. We have surveyed the majority of villages in Monroe County and found that they are closed on that day. As it falls on
Friday.
Christmas,
Thursday.
Thursday, and then that day after would be, they had to clean everything up. But, and I'm in favor of that, so, anyways, I would ask for a motion to, approve this, MOU with the union and our office staff, and, give them the 26th of December.
Thank you.
I'll make that motion, I know Mike was against it, but. I'm kidding.
They all responded in favor, and it was very nice. Thank you.
Cut it out now, Mike.
No more cookies in the office for you.
Yeah, come on.
Who wants to second?
Well, I will definitely second it.
Thank you. Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Morenzi?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
We're on to
Christmas, Heather.
Thank you.
move now to, Don, do you have anything for us?
I do not.
That's short and sweet.
Oh,
Who's going to the street cleaning thing?
We haven't determined that yet, because I want to wait and see what the board says.
I just wanted, if you could point out too, I emailed everybody, but usually Don will say, well, did you send it to the union? Yes, and they're good with it, so it doesn't have to be pending their approval.
Correct. We had a conversation today with the union, and he was in favor of it. We was waiting for tonight, not preemptively signing.
Yeah, and I forwarded you his response, and he was saying, thank you very much, that was extremely generous, thank you. I forwarded his response to you. And this was Jake's email, here you go.
So Jake, I believe, since Don doesn't have anything for us, Department of Public Works, this is limited to one item.
I saw that. And it's not in bold though, so I don't think she really means it. Yeah, I sent an email around, tried to really tug at your heartstrings with some ASPCA style photographs of the guys there. But when we got our sweeper last year, it mentioned the training that they had, factory training that they had, but it's on Waco, Texas, and I understood it, so no way I'm not even gonna ask. Started looking into it and looked at the price, and it was, you know, considered surprisingly affordable for, you know, it's just under $2,200, and that's, I bet to check the hotel rate because they have an agreement with the hotel, but that's what they just had online, so I think it's even a better rate than that. But for two guys who go down there, they would leave on a Monday, they'd class all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday, then they'd come back Thursday morning and return. It's a $320,000 machine now. I'm sure the next one's gonna be a lot more than that. So I think, you know, wanting to keep this thing 10, 12 years, I think it'd be very beneficial to make that small investment, relatively small investment, I guess, compared to the tracing machine, to get the guys trained from the factory, they go through it, and then the agenda there, or the syllabus, or whatever you call it, is in there for the sweeper. They really go pretty in depth. With everything on the sweeper, and I think it'd be very valuable to do. I certainly wouldn't send guys during leaf season, or I'd have a lot of volunteers, I'm sure, then. Or snow, you know, snow plowing season. So March is full, April looks like it still has room, and then, you know, May, June, we start getting into more of the get busy outdoors with the plantings and with the parks and everything else and the roads. So that April does seem like a pretty good opportunity to send somebody, because it still could be plowing, or it could be mowing grass. You never know in April. But it's, I don't want to say it's never quiet, but it's one of the better months, I guess, if we're going to do something like this.
Will they come back with manuals more than what they currently have, or will be things that are here demonstrate or go into depth about what's currently in the manual? And will, as a result of this, our two individuals who are sent, will they become knowledgeable in terms of repair, things that need to be done?
Yeah, if they've got it in there, it's rebuild, repair small parts and components. It's part of this service.
Certainly major things I can understand.
Yeah.
We don't have to send this out all the time. That becomes a savings, which offsets.
Yes.
this particular
Yeah.
cost.
And this is for, you know, they're built on many different platforms. Ours is built on a Freightliner chassis, so the Freightliner still, it's its own thing. This is for the sweeper portion itself, and the controls for that. So yes, they would, presumably that's the intent, and the hope is that they learn a lot and be able to not only, you know, make the repairs, but maintain it to limit the repairs, you know, do preventive maintenance on it and operate it efficiently, so we want the thing to last as long as possible. It's at $300,000 plus. So.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you, is that OBPN in the units?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Certainly the heading is saying service superintendent, so we'll do something that allows them to come back and.
I'm all for this.
Me too. Me too.
Anything that can save us money down
Definitely good.
the road.
Yep.
Gotta have these guys trained on how to use that equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, and there was, you know, when we got it delivered, the guy came out and spent a day when people were learning and training from the salesman, but there's nothing like the fact that they weren't taking components off it like they will in this training.
Yeah, it looks like they assemble and disassemble, I mean, they're gonna be very hands-on with putting it together and stuff.
Yeah,
Those are right on their syllabus.
it might be just the way that they're tricking us into building some form.
If something major happens there, do they send somebody up from Waco, Texas, or is there a place that's local that can do that kind of work?
Our sales, excuse me, it's J&J Equipment where we purchased it, it's in Brewerton, it's up near, it's north of Syracuse. I don't know if it's Brewerton or Brewston or.
I love
Oh, there's
Brewerton.
Brooks around
Brewerton.
81 there,
Okay, yeah,
That's when my dad had his boat for a long time.
at J&J Equipment?
What?
Instead of J&J Equipment?
No.
Oh.
Oh, no, no.
But that's, I mean, that would be the sweeper components. And again, the Freightliner, that would be handled by a different, you know,
Yeah.
in a chassis manufacturer.
I would, you need a motion tonight?
I'll make that motion.
I would ask for a motion to approve the training of up to two individuals, to travel to, where's it, Waco?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah, I
Waco,
think,
Texas.
I think they need a supervisor, because I need to go to Waco, Texas.
They're taking medicine,
For the training for our sweeper.
One thing I would question,
At a cost not to exceed $3,000?
Yeah.
That's what Jake suggested.
Otherwise, ask what the cost was.
Otherwise, you're giving them a blank check, they can spend as much as they want to go to Waco, Texas. They're gonna get first class here.
yeah, and I put 3 in just so I didn't have to come back and say, you know, if it was 2286 and we asked for 2186 and I asked for 2185, I didn't wanna,
Yes.
oh, now we gotta come back again.
$336.
Okay, was there a motion?
The per diem, that is for the 3 inclusive days?
The per diem is for first day of travel, last day of travel, and dinner. Because there's lunch provided, there's a breakfast at the hotel, and lunch provided at the training. So it'll be dinner the 2 nights, and then first day, last day, the way the GSA website, you know, I think it's,
Well, for 2 of them, you cut the cost in half.
Yeah.
Each one.
We can send you the, information once we book the flights too.
yeah, they're actually, the salesman said he would go down, and he suggested flying into Dallas is better than trying to fly into Waco. And it's about
Yeah,
2
yeah, we
hours
should-
north,
yeah,
and
Dallas.
he'd get a car and drive down,
Yeah.
bring him down.
Dallas. I'm a Dallas fan, don't.
Oh, do they have a team?
They played well the other night.
I'll make that motion.
Well, I know you don't want them to get trained, so I'll second that.
Touche.
Trustee Lauer,
Aye.
trustee Renzi, and Mayor Byers.
Aye.
Trustee Belkane. Motion passes.
All right, thank you.
Oh, not to exceed 2,000.
Right.
Yes.
It's in Jake's second to last paragraph, before he says, thanks for your consideration.
I don't read his emails.
Wait, how many paragraphs do I do?
You did it.
That's
was
the
quite a
point.
few.
Writes too much, book.
6 paragraphs.
Cost is not to exceed, expected to be 2,200. All right, well, we don't often see you here, but
I like to see it pretty much every time.
They're used to my face, not yours.
Yeah, I apologize, I didn't get a list of the course together, but some of the things going on around town, or the village. Those shelves you guys
So
approved are
hot.
finally up and working well. Daryl saw those the other day. 33 Kilberger Park has started construction on the duplex that they got approval for about 3 years ago, I believe. Croglio's has submitted a permit application. The coach is going well under their construction.
It's hoping to be done when?
March, yeah.
And they said that's wishful thinking, it's,
I didn't say that on
Boy,
record.
boy.
no, just between me and you.
The frame is insane.
I
Framing.
They shoot for Mark, you know how buildings, you know.
Yeah, they've already had a couple setbacks.
Yeah, it's a good crew though, and there's plenty of them, so they're moving right along. There's been some interest in some of the stores near the corner, you know, for the corners here. That's been a pretty good sign. The new businesses that have opened in the last few months are going well, according to our research. About all I have for this time, if you guys got any questions.
I hit you up pretty good, so I'm good.
Have you toured in the garage store?
No, it's for
That's
rent.
up for rent, yeah. Just wondering how the building is. I'm looking at its outside. That awning apron or whatever that sticks out.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It could be a marquee, how neat would that be?
Was it bad shape, you're saying, or?
Oh, it is.
So I'm just wondering if there will be any improvements to it.
I haven't heard of anything.
Oh, okay.
The sign's still in there. Hopefully, get some interest in there.
Does D'Amico own it?
Yes.
Those are apartments upstairs.
Nick has got a thing with the building.
All right. Well, thank you. And yeah, those
Shelves.
new shelves look,
You saw us struggling, man. We gotta get all those scanned, all those maps.
yeah, we had a proposal, I think, a while back, didn't we, to have a scanner? Who did?
We
the
did,
scanning?
so, I forget the name of the company, and those have been returned, and they're in the, get the gentleman's name that recently left, or in his office, so those will get indexed and put on those shelves. And then what's left will probably be, if you guys approve it, sent out for the rest of them to get scanned, and then we should be pretty well caught up, index those, and
Image integrated.
What are we doing with that large machine that sits there? Isn't that a scanner?
yeah, we use it, but, I mean, the amount of stuff we get in, we don't have the staff to scan everything that comes in. If we start at this point and go, we should be able to keep up. But as far as
Catching up.
yeah, that's above and beyond our capabilities. I just wanna get me in the system.
Okay.
I'll take it there. Very well.
How about what, thinking about how we doing on the signs coming to the town?
Entrance signs?
Yeah.
We've got those a few weeks ago, and Karen set up pictures, but we've been going crazy with leaf pickup and doing the decorating for the parade and.
Also, we got, or just a matter of taking the old ones down?
Yes.
Put those up, okay.
Yep, they're here, so.
Good.
They look great.
How about the cemetery posts?
Stop in anytime
Did
if
you
you
get
wanna.
that?
No, I didn't get the real, but I did.
There's two of them that are knocked out.
Yeah, I reached
Karen
out
went down and picked them
to,
up and they're great. Yeah.
we use larch wood, which isn't supposed to rot, and I don't know what's going on, why it's rotting in that sandy soil. There shouldn't be any moisture set up against it. But that was the intent, is larch, and there's a guy, Gary Hubbs, out in that way somewhere, I forgot even where he. But I reached out to him and he was gonna pull some out, he had some, or get some milled up, the 6-bay, because they're kind of rough cut. And I haven't heard back from him yet, so, but I've got, there's 4x6, excuse me, not 6-bay, 4x6s, and I was getting a few of them, because he's somewhat difficult to get a hold of sometimes too, so I figured we get extras, they're not gonna be in storm.
Good.
I've got some extras, because, yeah, when it happens again.
Peter just take it up?
Yeah, he left a little bit ago.
Oh, I was gonna ask him about the clock. How are we doing with the?
There's my wife has been in touch with the clock repair guy,
Mhm.
and he can repair the clock and paint it for $4,600.
As opposed to the 15, 16 that we looked at.
21. It's something we ought to
Yeah, but
consider.
isn't the clock's gonna get paid for out of the 4.5 million?
Yeah, I know.
So why don't you get a new one? You'll spend $4,600 and watch, 3 years from now, it'll conk out again.
Especially because you spend so much time figuring out what you want it to look like.
We came down with an idea at one point.
Decided I throw it out there.
It's the state's money, what the heck?
Yeah.
Not the village's money. And it was included, that was a part of the veterans part, the whole,
Yeah.
the bulk of the 4.5 million is veterans part, including the clock.
So they just
Just thought I'd
take
throw
the
it out
letters
there.
out.
Like we were thinking, Carl, how about it, like I said, if the state's paying for it, might as well get a new one.
Yeah, put in the one.
And it says they're
You can take the old one, put it in your backyard or something.
People can have the time if they go by.
We need you to
We'll auction the old one off.
I don't know, you probably have to go in front of the ZBA for some kind of variance if you put it in your front yard.
Yeah, well, then I gotta pay $4,600 damage.
The building inspector doesn't work the weekends.
It's just my line.
All right,
I
well,
wonder what's gonna happen to the old clock, you know, it'd be shameful to throw it out.
Auction it off for charity.
I'll take it.
There you go, Carl will take it.
all right.
Bring it over.
Well,
to
if
my
there's
house.
anything else that the board would like to bring up, if not, I'll entertain a motion to close the meeting. It is now 6:45.
I'll make a motion.
And
Merry Christmas to
I'll
everybody.
second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is closed. Thank you very much for watching this evening, being here. We did have 5 people here.
Merry Christmas and happy Hanukkah.
Thank you.
So, I would propose that in lieu of having a holiday gathering, that maybe whoever wants to, we go down to the Mary Wee this evening.
Don's buying, he's got a tag on.
Since we're not, I don't have a table there, but I'll buy. Since we're not gonna see each other till after the.
It's a great idea.
I'm hungry too.
There, you gotta get in there, you haven't
Yeah, I've
been
actually had
there.
dinner yet at
Hey, but we had lunch,
Oh,
we
you've
had
been in
lunch
there?
on
Okay.
Saturday, yeah. I think it's a great idea, Don.
You good, you all good?
Huh?
Gotta go down.
Yeah,
You out of the woods now?
yeah,
Oh, good.
yeah, we're good, man. I had the flu.
Oh, no.
Yeah. It's going around. I mean, I'm good now, but.
I like that.
Boy, that was a doozy.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Doozy.
No, not yet.
I know Monroe County's getting crushed
It's the
with
first
it right
baby,
now.
I think so.
Tell you what.